exclusively on the Oysterlink Podcast, the fastest growing hospitality job platform in the US. Hear the story of Chef Daniel Lugovtsov. From dishwasher to sous chef at 21 to leading kitchens inside New York's most elite Michelin Starred restaurants.
And when you enter a sous chef role, shit, you have this responsibility and you don't understand it until you get it, and you get hit with it very hard, very early. So I had many cooks under me that were quite older that I had to kind of battle into like a disciplined manner for everybody to kind of respect me.
He breaks down what it really takes to get hired in Michelin kitchens, how young cooks should negotiate their salary.
For the average market being 50,000, absolutely not. That's quite obscure. In Miami, of all places, which is very expensive, almost as expensive, more expensive than New York at the moment, it's definitely not fair, especially with the responsibilities you're doing. It's kind of undercutting the little guy.
The best lesson he learned from his Michelin mentors, and more, only on the Oysterlink Podcast, your weekly dose of stories and insider tips from America's top hospitality professionals. Hello, Daniel. Thank you for joining us today.
Of course, thanks for having me.
So, Daniel, to start, could you please introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your career path?
My name is Daniel Lugovtsov. I grew up in Miami and kind of branched out to Nashville, moving up to New York. New York is kind of where I made the name, working at some high-end Michelin Starred restaurants, and then kind of landed back in Miami to learn the business dynamic of the restaurant, working for one of Star Restaurant Group's main operations.
Nice. And right now you work with Pastis Miami, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So can you tell me in 1 minute, what is the roadmap to becoming a chef de cuisine?
The roadmap to chef de cuisine is quite a bumpy one. First, you start off as like a for me, I started off as a front of house person, and I made a mistake, and they just threw me back in the kitchen, washing dishes. And then from there, I went to becoming a line cook. From a line cook, you become a chef de partie, which in most kitchens in Miami, they don't have that, but essentially it's like a lead line cook, like the head cook of the station. And then you have like the whole camaraderie joining in, and then you enter that sous chef role. And when you enter that sous chef role, like most people, myself, we become very egotistical, kind of. You have like, oh, I'm a sous chef. I have that power. I have that drive. I have this responsibility. But holy shit, you have this responsibility, and you don't understand it until you get it, and you get hit with it very hard, very early. And I had a lot of struggle with that, especially since I became a sous chef at the year of 21. So I had many cooks under me that were quite older that I had to kind of battle, but I ended up jumping over that wall to kind of earn that respect, but also kind of set myself into like a disciplined manner for everybody to kind of respect me. From there, I did go back to like chef de partie, line cook to certain restaurants, because I believe when you work at regular restaurants versus high-end fine dining to Michelin, it's very different. So it's more about cooking than XYZ. But once you have that experience, a lot of people will reach out to you to drive up, to go like, hey, I want you as the head chef, or I want you as the executive chef, and so on. Going into the head chef role is something that is very challenging at first. And you have to basically be like open arms, welcome to all criticism and critique. Responsibility, understand that it's not about you, it's about the team, about the restaurant, and the real stand.
Okay. So let me ask you about the job market in Miami these days. So the average payment for like a chef de cuisine is $50,000, almost like $50,500 annually. Do you think this is a fair payment given the responsibility you just mentioned?
For the average market being 50,000, absolutely not. That's quite obscure. In New York, I was, as a sous chef, making at a 3 Michelin star restaurant, it was around that period. So to me, for a head chef position in Miami, of all places, which is very expensive, almost as expensive, more expensive than New York at the moment, it's definitely not fair, especially with the responsibilities you're doing. It's kind of undercutting the little guy.
Yep. So what do you think are like the biggest mistakes that chefs make when negotiating their payments?
I I believe it's the lack of confidence, and it's also how you approach the situation. So it's the same thing if like I would think of it as trying to negotiate with a line cook or one of your staff members. So if you know, hey, I want you to do X, Y, Z, but if you kind of come to them in an aggressive tone or a disrespectful tone, they won't be like really doing it. They wouldn't care to do it. But if you come trying to find a way to manipulate it, not in a bad way, but in a manner where you can kind of hit that sweet spot for them, where they're like, okay, chef, yes, I'll do that, while also respecting them in a way they'll get that. In the sense of talking to someone above you or your employer, it's a lot about confidence, and it's about coming up with solutions to a problem, essentially, before you present them, because essentially that's what they want to see. They don't want to see a head chef or a sous chef coming up to you saying, hey, chef, I think I'm working too hard. I need more money. Because that's the case a lot in Miami, specifically with line cooks, and I've seen some sous chefs that I've dealt with in the past. But essentially it's like, hey, I've been doing X, Y, Z. Since then, I've seen the numbers have gone up. The staff morale has gone up. I've brought this guy, and I believe they are a crucial role in this restaurant, just like myself, blah, blah, etc. Bring up all the facts that support your solution before jumping to the climax saying, I would like to discuss a potential to increase my salary by 5%, 10%, etc. If you just go straight off of the market and just say, I want $10,000 more, you're not going to get it. But if you bring up supporting your statement with facts to give you that little rise to the climax, hey, this is what I want, boom, then potentially it's more of like, okay, let me put this under advisement with my seniors and so forth, and potentially sometimes like 50 out of 50 you will get exactly what you ask for, or sometimes they'll like meet you like, oh, instead of 10,000 we can do 8,000 or etc. So maybe kind of highball, like, you know, instead of you want 10,000, say 20,000. So if they meet you halfway, you're happy.
Do you think formal education has anything to do with like that payment? I know that you have a degree in culinary arts, so how much of, let's say, your success do you attribute to your formal education?
I actually don't have a degree in culinary arts.
Oh, you don't have it?
Yeah, no, at my age, I was really interested, thinking about considering going into culinary arts. I would think I was looking at Le Cordon Bleu and what was the other one? Johnson & Wells, but how expensive it was. Yep. And I was also working in kitchens at the time. I was working at the Fontainebleau, actually. It's where I met my mentor from England. He's Michelin experienced all over from France to London as well. And he was like, you know, with I don't know if I can say it or not, but whatever. He was like, oh, you know, don't do that. Stay in the kitchens. Go straight to the kitchen. So I started straight off of 18. 18 is when I started like real fine dining kitchens. 16 was when I actually started kitchens, and I kind of like would skip school to work here for a day, skip school to go work there. Fontainebleau is where I kind of ended up and met my mentor, who kind of really shaped me for the type of chef I am, but also he kind of set me on my career path.
Nice. So it's experience that what really matters. This is what I can tell.
Yes.
Okay.
I would tell you 100% at Per Se, whenever Per Se, it's a 3 Michelin Starred restaurant by Thomas Keller. I was a AM sous for some of the time, and whenever we would have a stage come by, it would be like some kid from CIA or ICE. Most of the people from ICE are actually quite good, but as a CIA, you have entitled kids that are rich and their parents send them there, and they come in and like, okay, chef, what can I do? And they have this really cocky, confident attitude, which is great, but sometimes it's like too much and overwhelming. So the second you give them a project, they're like, what? Give me something harder. It's like, okay, you can go. Or then it's like, hey, you're going to do this. Make me a French omelet. And the second they grab a pan and they do something wrong, I just say, you can go home. You're not going to work here.
Yeah.
It's more about experience, and it's like, I'd rather you know nothing whatsoever so I can actually train you and shape you, and all the other chefs around me can do the same, rather than you have a piece of paper telling you, hey, you got a BA in culinary arts, so now you think you're some like type of hotshot. irrelevant to
Yeah.
me.
So what makes you hire someone right after the interview, right away? I mean, what's the, I don't know, that thing that makes you hire someone right away?
I would say it's kind of like the swagger you kind of have when you walk into an interview. When I was in high school, we had a culinary arts program. I entered cheating the system, so I got culinary arts 1, 2, 3, 4, all within the same year. And as soon as I walked in, the teacher, the chef of the class, stopped me, and he's like, "Do you already cook?" Because I just had this like, I don't know,
Yeah.
like ambiance or something like that. It's a lot of that, and I had zero experience like whatsoever. I just kind of grew up cooking with my family and taking care of my brother and sister. Realistically, when I sit down at cooks in Miami, which to be fair, this is with all due respect, the cooks in Miami are very hard target to reach out to compared to like places like New York or California, or you know, if you go to like London or France, the chefs there, the cooks are all like, they're like, I want to learn, I want to drive. In Miami, it's kind of difficult, and when I speak with them, first I see how they speak. Essentially, like, you know, are they very sporadic, are they frantic, or are they calm, and are they reserved? And then when I ask them questions, they kind of take a moment to think about it because they want to make sure they articulate what they say precisely, but then they execute it very well. And then I just go into personal questions like, how do they feel when they're under pressure? How do they feel about respect and hierarchy and all of these things, read the recipe. And then essentially, I typically don't hire straight off the bat. I started a stage program. In Florida, because of some of the laws in our company at Star, we would hire people just based on the word of mouth. And then when we hire this person, then the next day I find out they actually suck. And I can't get rid of them because they're like, you know, the whole legal issue in HR. So we figured out a way where it was like, let's have a stage. So essentially we hire them minimum wage, try them out, discuss with them in forehand, like, hey, you're going to do a stage, it's minimum wage. If you work out, we're going to change your hourly wage to the wage that we discussed and change your job code to line cook. That way we can actually see if we're not wasting our time, but we actually have a promising candidate that we can mold into a chef or a head chef or something.
Then let me ask you the opposite question, like what are the red flags that you look for in a potential candidate?
Someone that's very jumpy, someone that's just like, you know, I kind of looks like he just needs a job. Someone with less than 2 years minimum experience, and it also depends on that experience. If they work at like TGI Fridays or McDonald's, obviously that's a no. If they work at some local restaurants or a mom and pop restaurant, definitely yes. If they're like not clean shaven, if they're very kind of dirty, again, it's also about this like just a general swagger. I've met a couple of people the past 3 months. I've hired some people who had like that swagger, that confidence. They walk in, it's like, hey, when it gets busy, I'm your guy, I can do this, without being overconfident or cocky.
Yep. So in your own perspective, what separates a good chef from a great chef?
A good chef is okay. A good chef is, to me, more like a line cook. Because, you know, the difference between a cook and a chef is a cook cooks and the chef leads. The chef is the captain of the boat. It's like there's some famous chef on Instagram with a huge mustache and glasses that says, not everyone is a chef. You are a cook and you're a chef. Good chef and a great chef, I mean, a good chef is just an older line cook that is very well seasoned, very well trained, knows all the dynamics of the kitchen, maybe even restaurant. But a great chef is someone who still can do all of that cooking, but really molds the next generation and mentors them. Like, they really shape them, they teach them, they tell them what they're doing wrong, what they're doing right, how they would do this, how they would approach this. Hey, next time I would do this instead of this. Hey, you overreacted this way. You need to stay calm because these guys are trusting you to lead them, and you can't overreact like that. And this is conversations I would have with my sous chefs who are in leadership roles, as well as lead line cooks that I am trying to mold into sous chefs, where it's like, this is all fun and games and you have people back there giggling and laughing, but you just avoid that. Focus on yourself, lead them, because you're going to be leading them one day. And it's really about mentorship. A great chef, excellent chef, really mentors people to take over his spot or the next generation wave of chefs.
You mentioned that you had a great mentor. So what's, let's say, the top advice that he gave you? Something that you would like to share with our audience?
So my mentor, his name is Neil O'Connell. He's from Birmingham, England. He mainly grew up in Leeds, but he worked with, his mentor was a chef named Michael Caine. He's a Michelin star chef, amputee with one arm. He's left-handed. His mentor was that famous chef that committed suicide after he lost his third star. So when he told me that, I was like, wow, so starstruck about who my mentor is. And my mentor and I worked at Scarpetta, which is a fine dining restaurant by Scott Conant before Michael White, I believe, took over it. And we walked into Scarpetta one day. We were gonna have we had a shit service one night, like stupid, like so stupid. I made mistakes. My partner made mistakes. The station up across from me made mistakes. And then the next day, we were all expected to be like heated during lineup. He's gonna say like, "What the are you guys doing? This is not fair to me and disrespectful." But instead, he just stood there quietly, very posed, very calm. And along the lines, I don't know if I'm quoting exactly, but he was just mentioning, guys, mistakes are like water. They like go on your head, trickle down your body, down to your chest, down to your legs, and then they're gone. So essentially from that, we all took that, mistakes are mistakes. We always learn from them, but to not let them hold and linger down on your past to stop you from going to your future. So if you make a mistake, mistakes happen. They just, it's like water. It's going to go away. And to me, that was like, holy shit, this really is just cooking. Like it's so simple. It's just cooking. That's all it is. But the symphony of garde manger section to saucier, entremet, poissonnier, and then you have like the symphony, the conductor, that's the beauty part of it. And when everybody just works together, yes, chef, and you hear the plates go down and it's fire, it's just like a symphony to my ear. That's the day I knew I was like, yeah, I love this.
This is impressive, by the way. I really like the way you described it with the water. I mean, yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Then let me ask you, what do you think is the one kitchen rule that should disappear in 2026? Something that should change, I don't know. Maybe in Miami, maybe in general. What do you think?
That's a tricky one.
Unless everything is going really well and nothing has to change, which I don't believe is the case.
That's a really hard question for me specifically, because for me, coming from high-end restaurants where I have so many brothers that I grew up with, from line cooks to sous chefs at Michelin Starred-restaurants. My best friend runs a 2 Michelin Starred restaurant, Aska. My other best friend, his name is Vince. He's the executive sous chef of Per Se. And then my other friend, Sam, he was the executive chef of Clover Hill. And he's actually leaving because they're closing, but he's going back to London to be with his wife. Working in these restaurants, there's a lot of harsh critique. I would say realistically is just that working at those restaurants is very hard, because you have that stress and you have that ambition to do everything so well, because it has to be well. It's very stressful. Everything has to be 3 stars. Everything has to be perfect. All the scallops have to be cooked the same, even if they're different sizes. You want to make sure they're all the same, not different sizes. All your fish has to be at the same time. And it's I would say it's that mentorship role. We did have it, but there was also, certain times this sous chef or this sous chef in particular would kind of hound you and say, what the f*** are you doing? why is this happening? And you would just kind of belittle. So to me, I've seen it dwindle down, but it's really that old school. It's the old school to me. I grew up in that environment. My mentor was the same way. He was ruthless. Like there were times where, like literally grab me by the shirt and be like, "What the hell is this? Why is this in my kitchen? Why are you putting this in my kitchen?" And that day I was like, "I'm never up. I'm showing up 2 hours early every day, having a coffee with the chef, and getting up early preparing my mise en place early. Then I clock in." And a lot of times it's kind of saddening that I don't see that anymore with most cooks, because that to me was ambition. I would wake up 2 hours early. I went up to my chef, "Hey, I want to be better. Give me a project. Okay, make me a French omelet." It took me 2 weeks to learn how to make a French omelet properly, where it's like not overcooked, it's not too under, it's like perfectly has that nice little glaze in the texture on the outside, but it's also soft and seasoned on the inside. Peel potatoes, teach me how to like Tehran, teach me how to do nice cuts. I don't see that ambition anymore. I just see a bunch of kids watching Food Network or some cooking competition shows and say, "That's what I want," and then they enter the actual kitchen and they expecting all of this like hot type of audience, but then they get
It's not YouTube anymore.
It's not YouTube anymore. It's not Food Network.
So the old school ways seem to have like done a great job. I mean, the old school, you mentioned that how your mentor used to mentor you and how he used to, make sure that you learn the right things. So this is what the industry needs these days, to bring back the old school.
To bring back
to a certain level, let's say, not everything.
To a certain level, yeah. Like definitely not the physical. There's definitely I've never dealt with physical abuse to be make that statement, but like the emotional and the stress, the mental abuse, that was definitely a thing.
So sort of a balance between the two, between YouTube and the old school would be a good thing.
Exactly.
Okay, so let me wrap up this by one question. If you can have one advice for every young cook watching this right now, what would that be? Someone in their beginning, like in the beginning of their journey.
You need to always stay true to your craft and always remember where you came from.
Always remember where you came from. What do you mean by that? Can you explain it more?
Yeah. So I actually grew up here in Miami. I'm a child of immigrants coming from Moscow, Russia. My story is kind of, I would say funny, but it's kind of, a lot of people tell me it's like a movie scenario, because my father and mother got pregnant with me, moved to Russia. My father was actually a KGB agent. My mother was not aware until moving here, and then he got deported, and then we had to move around a lot until the government caught my mom, and she had to get married to get citizenship and keep us here and blah, 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 etc. But Miami is where I grew up. And I grew up in the kitchens in Miami with my mentor. And then after that, I kind of went to like tasting menu style restaurants, omakase restaurants, to fine dining French Michelin restaurants, to fine dining European, Scandinavian restaurants. And that really molded me into being like very cutthroat. I would look at everything, say, can this be better? What can we do this? Why is this guy doing this? And I had this very much ego. But then I got offered the job by my mentor for this restaurant, Pastis, and I denied it multiple times. I was like, no, this is not Michelin. This is not food. This is not the food I want to do. This is not the cooks I want to be with. But then going back into it is kind of like, this kind of feels like home in a way. Not where I want to be, but something that will get me there, especially since learning the business dynamic of the restaurants is what I wanted to do. But when I entered that kitchen again with my mentor, especially being there, because he was the executive chef at the time, we got to run that kitchen like our old kitchen in Scarpetta, with the same mindset of mentorship, but also accountability and how to keep everybody going. And aside from that, I had a head chef at Per Se named Corey Chow. That's something that he would always take to heart, is like, whatever you're doing, always remember where you came from, like where you started. Wherever you are now, remember you were here once too. So always lead and mentor with that in mind, that like, you know, you're a head chef now, but you were a dishwasher a while ago. So don't think you're hot shit and think you need to get the respect from everyone. Everyone is equal in the same way.
This is really nice, by the way. And you have a Hollywood story, just like what you mentioned. Yes, this is a Hollywood story. That's worthy of being a movie. Thank you so much, Daniel, for this interview. Thank you for sharing those stories, those insights. This was really nice.
Of course, my pleasure.